Salakia, Israel. I think we got that technical difficulty fixed. We got that technical issue fixed, and so let's get back to the class. If you was watching on One West Online on Facebook, try us at Holy Word on Facebook. If you're watching stuff, or pick us up on, you can pick us up on YouTube, ISUPK Detroit. Now, where were we at? Maccabees. Here we are in Maccabees, First Maccabees 2. We're going to look at another leader. As a group, we think, we act as if we have a vote. You know, the Most High never gave us a vote and who He's going to put over Israel. Right now it's Commander General High. We can sit up here and vote all we want to. That wouldn't make it no more righter that we decide to put. We don't run anything. We are subject to the Most High. The most High set up our leadership. First Maccabees 2:29. Again, then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore among them. The kings, these Greeks, was telling us we had to disobey the Most High. We had to disobey the Most High. And the Most High gave us some folks, Mattathias and his sons, that was our military arm, but these folks didn't want to follow what they said. Now watch what happened. These people wanted to do it their way. They didn't follow the leadership that was in place. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness. Now watch this. What happened ahead of that, Mattathias cried, verse 27. Now Mattathias had told, when they came to tell them that they're going to, they have to sacrifice, they have to keep the king's commandment and disobey the Most High, Mattathias and his son stood up and said, oh, that ain't gonna happen, man. We'll fight if we have to. Now watch this. And after he gave his speech, and he knew he pissed them off, he was ready to fight. He stood up among the people. This is verse 27. He stood up among the people, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. Here's the leader that the Most High has chosen for the people. He said that. Then it was time to go. Verse 28 says, so he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. It's important that you understand that. Keep holding on to stuff. That's what treacherous leaders will do. They make you think your stuff is important. You know. They make you think that your stuff, just stuff. But we see this leader who the Most High has chosen to be a military arm for us, to be a fighting arm, him and his sons left everything that they had in the city. Now watch what happens next. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. Now look, Mattathias, the leader chosen by the Most High, goes up into the mountains. Those who don't want to follow him and do it their own way go down into the wilderness. And they took their children and they took their wives there. Now, when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. Hold up. They go after the folks that went down into the wilderness, but not the folks that went up into the mountain. It's almost as if the enemy knew these people couldn't fight back. It's almost as if the enemy knew they had a win over this group, but not that group. Now imagine if this group that's in the wilderness, right? If this group that's in the wilderness, had they followed Mattathias up into the mountains, maybe the enemy would not have even followed them. Just maybe. And they said unto them, let that which you have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and you shall live. But they say, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. Basically, this group here they didn't understand the scriptures. And not they thought, this group thought it was they couldn't fight a war on the Sabbath. They were stuck on this strict Pharisee way of keeping the Sabbath. They weren't going to do what the king wanted them to do, but surely they weren't going to come out and even let the king's soldiers trick them into fighting and therefore for profaning the Sabbath. That's what they thought, and they were absolutely wrong. So they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die in our innocence. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that you put us to death wrongly. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Dumb. They decided to be martyrs. They decided to be martyrs. But it shouldn't have happened that way. They should have followed Mattathias from the beginning. That's what they should have done. They should have followed Mattathias from the beginning, because he was the leader appointed over God's people. These people, they leadership by collectivism, by voting. Well, they got together and voted, we're going to go down here. Look what they got them. 1,000 of them, their entire families killed. Dead. Now when Mattathias, verse 39, and his friends understood hereof, when they heard about these other folks getting killed, they mourned for them right sore. They loved their brothers. They loved their sisters. They loved their fellow Israelites. They loved them. And it hurt them to their heart. Couldn't do anything to bring them back. Look what he did to. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. They will commit total genocide against us. And notice what Mattathias said he was going to fight for: our lives and our laws. Our lives and our laws. He knew what to concentrate on, but he stands out so matter-of-factly, it's so apparent to follow this guy, Because we're looking at what? We're looking at traitorous leaders. Here's a leader who didn't even know he was a traitor, not Mattathias, the other group. Those leaders didn't know they was traitorous, but they led their people into their own burning house, a wilderness where they just were slaughtered. They led their people to the death. These are the type of leaders you got to watch out for. Let's go to 1 Maccabees 5. We're going to look at another leader. We're going to look at it again from Maccabees 5. Again, this is your history, Israel. This is your history. 1 Maccabees 5, we're going to go to start at the 18th verse. Another group of people. We might even looked at these folks last week too. So he left Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the people with the remnant of the house of Judea to keep it. This is still the Maccabees. They still putting up the fight, right? And here's some folks, Zacharias, Joseph rather, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias. They're left back with the people to be a garrison over the people, to protect the people if the people are attacked. He's left back with the remnant of the host in Judea to keep it. Verse 19, unto whom he gave commandments, saying, take ye charge of this people. Look here, this man is promoted to being the leader of this people. Take charge of this people and see that you make not war against the heathen. Just take care of the people. But don't go out and make war against the heathen, that's what he said, until the time that we come again. Now notice this. The Maccabee fellas, this is Judas Maccabee. He's telling Joseph and Azarias, look, you take charge of these people right here. And while we're gone, don't make war with the heathen. We don't want you to don't bother these heathens until we get back. Now he let them know, now when you get back, that could change. Until we get back, that could change. That's all he had to do. That's all these two brothers had to do. What? Joseph and Azarias, all they had to do was just keep the people from fighting the heathens around them. Now unto Simon were given 3,000 men to go into Galilee, and unto Judas 8,000 men to the country of Galaad. All right. Now let's jump to 5 verse 56. Simon and Judas, they going off to war. And Joseph and Azarias was told to what? Stay there in Judea, watch over these people, don't start no trash with the heathens around them. This is 1 Maccabees 5 and 56. These guys were made leaders. They weren't voted in by the people. They was given rulership over these people. Joseph, the son of Zacharias and Azarias, captains of the garrison, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds which have been done. They sitting back at the garrison chilling. You know, they ain't got to go to war. And they heard of all these gallant acts. So when they had given charge, wherefore, or verse 57, Salakia, wherefore they said, let us also get us a name and go fight against the heathen that are round about us. What was their orders? What was their damn orders? Their orders was not to fight against the heathen. And what they do, they look out here. They look out here and they see what? They see that the captains that went off to war got great accolades coming towards them, got great names to themselves. And they're being honored on the lips of people. And they envy the accolades. They envy the recognition. They envy the spotlight. And they want the spotlight. And what do they say? Let us also get us a name and go fight against the heathen that are round about us. They seen these men of war go out here and fight and win. And so they decide to what? Disobey orders. Look what happens when they disobey orders. Verse 58. So when they have given charge unto the garrison that was with them, they went towards Jamnia. Then came Gorgias and his men out of the city to fight against them. And so it was that Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and pursued unto the borders of Judea, and there were slain that day of the people of Israel about 2,000 men, because these idiots disobeyed the orders. Sidebar. I remember a teaching of both Commander General Hanna and General Mahana, the importance of us to follow orders. And then you thought it was heavy that we follow orders. When them brothers brought their foot down and gave us the bottom line on why it's very important. It's very important for me to follow that other officer order that's 5 minutes, 1,000 longer than me, but he's over me, to follow his orders. Why it's so important to follow his order is because his order is what? No different than my captain's orders. And my captain's orders no different than a big priest order, Captain Marquardt over the Midwest. And Captain Marquardt's order, Captain 13,000 Marquardt, is no different than General Q's orders, whose order is no different than General Mahaiman's orders, who's no different than Commander General Yohana's order, that's no different than Christ's order. That's no different than the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. Do you get that, Israel? These brothers had orders not to go fight, not to make war with or against the heathen. And when they disobeyed that order, they caused 2,000 men to die because they caused other men to disobey the order that was given. The men followed their orders because these men was over them. This is why we obey orders. This is why orders come down the way they do. We follow orders. When you disobey orders, you are disobeying the law, statute, commandments of the Most High. When you disobey orders, you set yourself up to be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. The very least in the kingdom of heaven. You know, the man that make a living by getting bottles out the local dumpster and hoping the man at the store will take them. The least. You set yourself up. Those men did not have to die, but their leaders were traitorous. How were they traitorous? They disobeyed their orders. They disobeyed the orders that they got from the man over them. What happened? What happened to you when you, this is what happened when we follow after leaders the Most High didn't put over us. They will be traitors. And even looking at these brothers were given this position, honorable position. All they had to do was sit back and make sure the home front was straight for when the brothers came back from war. But they got jealous, envious. Envious. So much so that There was no logical reason for them to do what they did. All right, let's look at some of these New Testament leaders. We're going to go over to Matthew and start at chapter 9 and verse 3. Now, I'm going to point out some things about these leaders. The reason we want to look at these so-called leaders during the time that Yahweh Shah walked on the earth, to show you again that they're no different than some of the leaders, so-called leaders, most of the so-called leaders walking around among you today. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 9, start at verse 1. And he entered into a ship and passed over and came into his own city. This is Yahweh Shai. He come into his own city. And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on the bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. Now watch this. That's all he told the man, your sins are forgiven. And he said this based on the faith of the other men. Understand what the men that brought him knew about Yahweh Shah. That he was an austere man, that he could heal. But his people had to walk a certain way. You wasn't finna get it easy. He wasn't finna get it easy. He wasn't going to sugarcoat it or nothing. He checked men, women, and children. He checked them. They knew this wasn't about to be an easy thing. And behold, they brought him a sick man of palsy lying on the bed, and Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven. Verse 3, and behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, this man blasphemeth. This man blasphemeth. They want to take Yahweh Shah out right now. Back then, to accuse somebody of blaspheming was to accuse them of something that was worthy of death. Death. He says, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. The scribes said that Jesus, that Yahweh Shah blasphemed because he told the man, his son, his sins are forgiven. Now you got to watch your paradigm on this, because you know the Christian influence of this nation will have you looking at this one way. Because Christians will tell you Jesus can forgive sins because him and Yahweh is the same. He's 100% God, just like Yahweh. No, he's not. He's 100% man, born of a mother and father, just like me and you. He's a man that kept the law. And he was pointing out and teaching this brother that he's that close to having his sins forgiven. Your sins, he's going to give him the real good news. Man, can you imagine? Never ever sinning. I'm looking for the young brothers and sisters that's going to be born in the truth and never have to think that birthdays and Christmas and 4th of July and Halloween are good things. To grow up knowing those are evil things. Mother's Day and Valentine's Day are evil, treacherous things. To know that. To know that. That's amazing to think about that. But when Yahushua want to forgive, is telling this man his sins be forgiven, the scribes who are in that religious elite, the scribes were the people who wrote down, copied the scriptures from scroll to scroll. And they were so meticulous in the way they had to copy it, right, that if they make one mistake, they start over. This gave them a sense of better than thou-ness. Because they copied it all, they felt they had a better grasp of what it said than a lot of other people. Here come this fella, Yahushua, who's never been to scribe school, ain't never been to Pharisee school, ain't never been to Sadducee school, and he tells a person. See, up this chapter 9 in Matthew, he's been around a minute, and he's been checking folks, and they know about him. But they fancy themselves to be leaders. And so they call themselves trying to check Yahushua. But he got an answer for him. Verse 4. And Jesus, that's Yahushua, knowing their thoughts, said, wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? He's telling them, because you saying I'm blaspheming, because I'm telling this man the truth. You telling me I'm blaspheming, that's an evil thing in your heart, Mr. Scribe. But verse 5, for whether is easier to say, thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, arise and walk? Verse 6, but that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on the earth to forgive sins. They mess with the wrong Negro. They mess with the wrong Negro. Then saith he to the sick of palsy, arise, take up thy bed, and go unto thy house. And he arose and departed to his house. The scribes are not leaders of the people, but not assigned leaders of the people. Yahushua is the leader. That's assigned to the people at this time. He's the leader. The people ought hear him. And after his baptism by John the Baptist, didn't it say that the Spirit of the Most High lighted upon him in the form of a dove, and a voice was heard from heaven? So this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. And then at another time, when the disciples was running their mouth about this and that, the Spirit of the Most High, the voice of the Most High came down and said, hear ye him? The people should hear Yahushua, not the scribes, but the scribes want to fancy themselves to be some type of leader. He said, take up thy bed and walk. He arose and departed to his house. Verse 7. But when the multitude saw it, they marveled and glorified God, which had given such power unto men. The scribe called himself trying to convince the people that Jesus was a false leader. He blasphemed. But they saw the power. And the people marveled and glorified God, which had given. Notice that when Yahushua does something, people glorify God. And when they come and try to give him glory, he checks them. He checks them. Let's go skip down to verse 11. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why eateth your masters with publicans? Okay, I'm not going to be able to skip. Let me back up. This looking at these leaders of the New Testament, we going We got the scribes, starting at verse 3, saying he blasphemed. And what they're doing, they're pointing their finger at the true leader that the Most High got in place at this time. Verse 9, and Jesus passed forth from thence. He saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom, and he said unto him, follow me. And he arose and followed. This is Old English. It's translated. It's the Old King James. It say at the receipt of custom. He's at the seat. He's at the tax table where people come to pay their taxes. And this is where they come to get their receipt, the proof that they paid their taxes. And it came to pass, verse 10, and he see a fellow sitting there at this table, a tax collector named Matthew. And he said unto him, follow me. And Matthew got up and followed him. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. Now, he had disciples already following him. He already checked this scribe. And now he runs into this fellow Matthew that's sitting at this publican, the tax collector's table. Publicans are tax collectors. And he tell him, follow me. Now he goes to the house of the tax collector. And while he's there, other tax collectors show up and so-called sinners. Folks identified as sinners. Folks who, and this the best we can really say is folks who what? If they sinners and everybody said they sinners, apparently everybody know that these folks don't regularly keep the law of the Most High. They do something regularly against the law, statute, commandments of the Most High. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? They not these, and these are other leaders. These are other leaders. Does that happen today? And you just ask, if you're not an Israelite, ask if you're not in this truth. If you're not in this truth and you're watching us on YouTube or whatever, contact the brothers and sisters in this truth, in the ISUPK. Contact them. Ask them yourself. What is one of the craziest things other so-called leaders of faked out Israelite groups or Christians want to come to us with? So-called Christian leaders, faked out leaders, that are not in the truth. What do they want to come with? Well, why do General Muhammad, why did he say this? Or why did Captain Tazariak say this? If he's such a great leader? Why did Captain Mashak say this? Well, and we experience it close to home too now. To say, well, if Captain LeBron's supposed to be such a holy man, why did he do this? And you know the big one. Well, if Commanding General Hanna is supposed to be this and that, why did, and these are supposedly leaders of black people. They question the actions of the leaders the Most High have put in place. Fake leaders question the actions of the leaders the Most High put in place. Show you what you mean. Show you what I mean. They got the nerve when some of these faked out leaders got the nerves to look at and question what is done with tithes that we pay. Now, again, you got to switch your paradigm. You can't think like a Christian. Because if you don't think like a Christian, then you understand that the question is asinine and so easy to answer. Why? Because when the faked out Christian, the faked out Muslim, the Egyptologist, the hairy Christian, whatever damn religion they're supposed to be, it's all Christianity. And paganism, when they ask that question, they are asking from a perspective that they are dealing with a small collective group of people who've chosen to identify themselves as this religion because they are also of a particular nationality. You see where I'm going with this? And so they ask you a religious question in their mind. But you can't answer a religious question, Israel, because we can't answer it because we don't have a religion. We have a culture, we have a way of living that's defined by the Bible, which is the law, statute, commandments that the Most High has handed down to us. This is not a religion. So when you ask what is done with our tithes, I will have to ask you what is done with your taxes in the country you claim allegiance to. Do you go and ask your government what's done with your taxes? See, I'm not, when you ask what is the leadership of the ISUPK doing, you're not talking about a religious leadership. You're talking about the leadership of a people. Of a people. You make the mistake, they make the mistake that these faked out leaders make the mistake, just like the scribe did. He made the same mistake. Just like these Pharisees doing when they're looking at Yahushua. They're looking at it from a religious perspective because they've turned, by this time, they've turned the law, statutes, commandments and reduced so on their head that they've reduced it to a religion. That's what they've done. To a religion. And they got their rules, and they can twist this and they can change this. Don't think the Catholics did it by themselves. They learned from the Pharisees and the Sadducees, our own people, that they can get away with this. That's why that's why they felt comfortable taking our records and twisting that and twisting this, because leaders of our past have done the same thing. We see them right here questioning Yahushua. Not only did they just question, but watch this. And when the Pharisees saw it, this is chapter 9, verse 11, Matthew chapter 9, verse 11, they said unto the disciples, why eateth your master with publicans? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Man, this is heavy. This is heavy. Just last night, we had a brand new brother just walked into school last night. And Cap was here. He went straight to the scripture. You see that? Because what's the next thing these faked out Christians will do? So-called Christian leaders, and they ain't no leaders, but what they ask you? Well, if y'all such leaders, then why you giving that bum at the gas station $2? All he gonna do is go to the liquor store and get him a drink. And guess what? I'm on my way there too. I'm on my way there too. And if you live in this here long enough, and you so evil that you wouldn't give a man in that condition a drink so he can forget about his troubles for just a little bit? You an evil bastard. You are evil bastard chasing after this oppressor so badly. Because that's who these folks was chasing after. They was chasing to please the Romans. Back in Mattathias' days, those fake leaders was chasing to please the Greeks. And back in Solomon's day, the nations around them, the Zidonians. You see that? Our leaders have this habit. Think about this. I know I'm gonna get a call and get checked if I'm wrong. But if you look at the average American leader, I don't care where he come from, the average non-ISUPK raised up leader. I don't care if he raised up in Islam, Christianity, in some type of gang, whatever. His ultimate goal, her ultimate goal is to prove that he can get you to get along in this oppressor's world the way it is. That's it. Oh, you think the gangs ain't trying to do the same thing just because what they selling sex and drugs? That's all they want to do. Well, looky here. As long as we keep the crime over here and don't bother y'all good white folks, don't come over here and bother us. You know, and we'll police our own, even in that. And then as soon as the white man come up with a way to just offer him a little bit more, guess what? There he goes. He sell out. Think I'm lying? How many people remember the hardcore, the heavy brother that the reason I'm selling drugs is for the cause type? Salakia, Israel. Whatever happened to that brother, that weed brother? I ain't doing nothing real bad. I'm trying to sell weed so I can raise some money for the cause to support this nonprofit, to support that nonprofit. And what did the oppressor do? He didn't open up clinics on him. Watch this. Not that we say it's good. It's a bad thing to sell weed to your brother. You got no business smoking no weed. But he didn't open up clinics on you after he put you, look at here, he put you in jail for year after year after year after year. The prisons are full of what? People who wanted to get rich selling weed, niggas that want to get rich selling weed. And then once the oppressor was ready, what does he do? He left you in jail but then opened up clinics. Right down the street, there's a damn clinic. And now in Michigan, and other places up here in the Midwest, what they doing and what have they done? They done went from medical use to what? Recreational use. And so they put together clinics, not even clinics, stores now. When it's medical, it's a clinic. You see, if it's medical, it's a clinic. And what do your Christian pastors tell you? What your Christian leaders tell you? If you got a card, it's okay to smoke all the weed you want to, as long as you got a card. And now that it's finna be legal, well, it is legal. As long as you get it legal, they tell you it's legal. Salam, Lord Christ, they tell you it's okay. But the Bible ain't never changed on that. They just showing you another way, what? To get along in your oppressor's world. To show you how to get along. That's what all the other leaders outside of the ISUPK is doing. That's why all the other leaders, all leaders that are not in the ISUPK, are traitorous to you. They ultimately will lead you away from the Most High. They ultimately test them on anything. Anything. Get one one leader in any part of America, not in the ISUPK, that's righteous, that's not leading people away from the Most High, not leading them to disobey the law, statute, commandments. That's what a traitorous leader does. That's what all the leaders in America are doing right now if they're not in the ISUPK. If they're not going according to these laws, statutes, and commandments. As taught in the ISUPK. Ain't no faked out so-called Israelite. You done studied with us for 4 or 5 months. Might even went through the academy, might got a little rank on you, may have even put on a cover. And then you left. Why? To become a traitor. You left to become a traitor. And I'm going to show you something. Man, the biggest, you got that zeal that Commander General Yahana had. Man. Don't nobody love y'all. Surely them heathens don't love you like that. Them Christians don't love. This brother said, look, he don't care if you did leave. Passover coming. Don't care if you did leave. If you did drop your sword. He said, come back home. He don't care if you've never heard of us. And that you was raised up a Muslim from day one. Come to the Passover. Come and find out that you are an Israelite, that you are a people. Come back home to your people. This brother, Commander General Hamid, every brother in this truth right now, every sister in this truth right now that I know of can name tons and tons of stuff they did against the Most High, against our own people. We did against our own people. And when we came here, I remember talking to that mighty man, Captain LeBon. And we ain't no punks up in here now, but man, just to hold the tears back as the relief to know that I finally got home, that I know what forgiveness looked like, that the Most High don't hold none of that stuff against me. And not one brother in this truth, not one sister in this truth, who know where I come from, held anything against me. You know what they said, like Yahushua said to the woman caught in the very act of adultery. This is leadership. He said, go and sin no more. Nobody told me I was justified, that my feelings, that because my feelings got hurt, this was okay for me to do this or that. Nobody told me I was justified. They told me how much of a bastard and how sick that was. And they said, go and sin no more. But these false leaders, these leaders of today, they so parallel the leaders during Jesus' time. They so parallel the leaders. We got working on something here to expand our reach, and in doing that, I got a chance to hear a little bit of a commentary of that fella by the name of Al Sharpton, who fancies himself a leader among Israel. And oh my God, he went in so heavy, not heavy in the sense that anything he said amounted to anything, but for so long and so drawn out, and this whole thing over Kobe Bryant. And it just turned my stomach. And I had to admit, this Kobe is the first super celebrity since I've been in the truth that that pass, and I get a chance to see the world's reaction after my paradigm has shifted, after I see things, now that I see things from the perspective of an Israelite by nationality. You got that? As an Israelite by nationality. You see, when I say as an Israelite by nationality, that means I care, we do things the way we do in Israel. That's it. How they do things in Denmark doesn't have anything to do with us. You got that? We do things, we live here in the ISUPK because this is our nation. We are a people. How they live in China, that's their business. And how they live in America, that's their business. That's their business. Just like any other international citizen. And when I say that, I mean somebody whose nationality is other than American. Just like any of those people. When they come here, they know they're going to obey the laws of the land. But even an Arab, when he come here, and he come here with 3 of his wives, even the law of the land don't mess with him on that. The law of the land does not mess with him on that. Why? Because they recognize him as a people. He's an Iranian. He's an Iraqi. He's an Arab from Arabia. You see? And that is their law, that is their culture. And so that's how I look at it as well. We don't have to. We have to obey the law of this land. But we don't have to obey nothing. We don't have to do anything that disobeys the law of our power, our own laws. These leaders today teach you to compromise. Let's read some more. And what they do, they attack your true leaders. That's why they have something to say about Commander General Yohanna. That's why they have something to say about General Muhammad. You see, that's why they think little of our other generals, and why they want to point to the generals and to the captains over us and the officers, right? Try to nitpick. Matthew 9:11, when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why eateth your masters with publicans and sinners? And they, why Commander General Yohanna do this? Why General Muhammad do this? Why Captain Malquad do this? Why Captain Laban do that? Oh, such and such. Well, why Captain Kapash? That's when you hear that, know that that's what traitorous leaders do. They talk about and try to make the true leaders that the Most High has given the people, they try to make them look bad. They try to make you not trust in them. Let's jump down to Matthew 34, 9 and 34. But the Pharisees said, he casted out devils through the prince of devils. And here you go. Here you go. When your fake leaders, they're coming against us, they call us, this is the biggest thing they can call us, and this is so laughable. They call us a cult. That is so laughable. When we're just a people living according to our laws, statutes, and commandments, following the leadership that the Most High has put in place over us. That's what we do. But looky here. They call us a cult. And they say that we are the devils. That what we do is by the power, by the power of the devil. Now watch this. It is not wrong to call these so-called black leaders heathens, because that's how they think. They think like heathens. They think like heathens. And what is it? They want to go after their own traditions. What feel good towards them. It felt good. Let's back up. Back up there around verse 11. It felt good to look down on the publicans. It felt good to these leaders in Jesus' day to look down on the heathens. That's why, even though they had to respect Yahushua for being the teacher, they had to respect him. What did they say? He said, when the Pharisees saw, verse 11, when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, why eateth your master? See, you know they respected his teaching because they called him a master. Oh, this your teacher, this your master. They got to respect him. And they even talking to the disciples because they don't really want to confront him directly. They get cut every time. But they want to question his actions through his disciples. And look, he said, why do your master eat with publicans and sinners? These are people that they too good to be with. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, they represent your leaders today, whether they be senators, congressmen, entertainment figures, talking heads on TV, preachers, politicians, lawyers. These are your black American leaders today. They the Pharisees, they the Sadducees, they the scribes. How do you know? Because they do the same thing. They do the exact same thing that the scribes and the Pharisees do. And ultimately, they seek to kill the true children of Israel, the leaders in Israel. They seek to kill them because they don't want Yahushua to come back. They really don't want Yahushua to come back. Let's go to Matthew 12. Hold on, let's look at it. Before we go there, verse 12, when Jesus heard, this is Matthew 9 and 12, when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Verse 13, but go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifice, for I am not come to call the righteous, but to call sinners to repentance. Now, to repent means to be so sorry for doing the thing that you never do it again. That you never do it again. Think about it. You tell your child day after day after day, when you're coming home from school, leave that dog alone that's behind that fence up there. And every day he bring his little crazy tail home from school. He what? He stops at the fence. He picks with the dog. He throws rocks at the dog. He kicks the fence. He just messes with that dog. And one day, for some reason, the gate is left open and he don't see it. And he goes down there, he picks with the dog, and they go through their ritual, and the next thing he knows, the dog is outside the fence. And that dog attempts to get at him. He gets away. The dog doesn't bite him, but he gets away barely. Guess what he doesn't do anymore? He's done. He's going to repent from that. He knows the dog can get out now. The average child will leave that dog alone. He ain't messing with that. He ain't messing with that dog. That's repentance. You ain't got to tell him no more to leave the dog alone. In fact, he probably got 2 to 3 days of laughing as you joke about how he don't mess with the dog no more. That's repentance. And Yahweh Shai has come along and given folks such good news that they don't want to sin no more. And he said, I come to show them that don't want sacrifice. I don't want you to get your head chopped off. The wages of sin is death. What are the wages? Wages is something, it's remunerance. It's what you get paid. It's what you have earned. It's a thing that you get earned and it's paid to you. Wages. Sin, the wages is death off with your head. Yahweh Shai said, it's a better way. How about just keep the commandments? How about just keep the law, statutes, commandments, and don't get your head chopped off? I will have mercy, not sacrifice. I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners. And you don't have to call the righteous. If you're already keeping all the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, what is there? You got life. If you're already keeping them, the problem is we really not. We really not. These fake leaders have a tendency that they can even upset, get the disciples thrown off a little bit. You see they did it here in verse 14. Then came to him the disciples of John. Oh, John wasn't in the camp. Watch this. So here's some more leaders, some disciples of John, following John, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? It's a religion to them. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? Yahweh Shai was with us. They don't need to fast. The day's gonna come when we're gonna need to fast. He was their strength right there. He could check them, get them right back on the track. It's nothing more important than to have yourself around Israelites that know these scriptures and live these scriptures. There's nothing more important than being around my brothers. That's one of the things. Y'all always around each other. The way y'all be together and the way y'all talk, y'all push people out. Y'all shouldn't. When y'all say that, y'all just make commanding. So lucky, y'all just make a lot of heavy hitters in this truth smile. And it's not that anybody want to force you out. The Most High would that all repent and come into the truth. Some of y'all ain't gonna do it though. So we're not gonna sit up here and fool ourselves and fall into that religiosity sing-song thing that, okay, we just gonna keep praying and God loves you anyway. No, he hates the sin, he hates the sinner as well as the sinner. We're gonna keep it honest. Fake leaders gonna lie to you about how the Most High gonna respond to you. What Creflo them doing? You know, he got a lot of, he said the law is done away with. He got the Big Ten. That's a lie. That's a lie. If the law is done away with, Mr. Christian Salakia, if the law is done away with, then why do our oppressor go out of the way and then advertise? They spend billions of dollars. They even don't even call them advertising, they call them public service announcements. Why do they spend billions of dollars getting you to eat the other white meat? Huh? Why do they spend billions of dollars, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, getting you to eat catfish nuggets, to eat pork, shrimp, crab, pork, lobster? If they do all that and then turn around, watch this. And why, when every dietary illness that we can suffer from, that can be suffered by man, we are at the top of it. The laws are not done away with. Hellenistic leaders just telling you a lie that they are. And then if you push them hard enough, they will even admit that they're not done away with, that no place in the Bible are they done away with, and yet you just don't have to keep them. If you push them hard enough. That's why they don't like debating us publicly. That's why they don't even like officers of 50 to come to their churches, because we know this Bible. We teach this Bible for what it says and not teach it so you can feel good. So that you can feel good. And this is how they set you up, especially the sisters. Ever since your leaders, understand it was your Christian leaders, your good Christian leaders that were social workers and community leaders and all of this and everything that got your father and your grandfather and your great-grandfather out of your home. You see, prior to the 1970s, you know, a good 80% of our households were headed by married men. We had fathers in our households. These very leaders, the Martin Kings and the Malcolm X's and the Shirley Chisholms, and these very leaders, the Maxine Waters, the Stokely Carmichaels, these very leaders that you lift up as great men and women, the ones that help destroy our families. And you can be all emotional if you want to. The math is going to always come out right. If 85% of your population is doing a certain thing, then your population is doing that thing. The 15% doesn't count. 85, because of the leaders of the day, the traitorous leaders of the day, because they led you to worship rocks and wood. They led you to worship your own feelings. They led you to do what you feel, how you feel. They led you to integrate with your oppressor and not to remain separate and distinct from your oppressor. These very leaders are the reasons that you die in droves at the hand of the police. It's the reason our communities, watch this, these very leaders, the reason you don't have fathers in Israel, in Judah. There is no fathers in the homes of Judah. Very little. In the ISUPK, there's fathers all over the place. But in the greater Israel, in the Hellenistic, in the Americanistic Israel, those who believe they're African Americans, no fathers. 85% of that population is headed by single women. And of those, 85% of them got children by multiple men. What does the math tell you about that? You really don't want justice from the Most High. You really don't. You want the mercy that's waiting for you and been preserved for you by Commanding General Yohanan not dropping his sword. There's mercy. As hardcore as these brothers are, as hardcore they are for the law, there's mercy in keeping the law, statute, commandments of the Most High. It's mercy in the ISUPK. Walking according to these laws, these statutes, and these commandments of the Most High. It's all type of mercy. But look at your leaders today compared to your leaders in the Bible. I'm going to get one more leader, and we going to end this class. I'm going to look at one more leader. We're going to go to John. Yeah, let's go to John. First, I'm gonna get two more scriptures. First, let's go Matthew 13. Start around 53. Yeah, because this is identifying. We could do this for another 2 weeks. Now that we're on the part talking about today's leaders compared to the Bible. Here's the craziest thing about teaching the Bible. Unless you go to a preacher school, let me do it this way. Let me say it this way. If you go to a preacher school, a Christian school, I don't know about Islam. I'm sure they got something, but I won't even speak on that. But I know about Christianity. If you go to a school called a seminary or Bible college, then in this country, and you show a piece of paper that you went to this country, you are almost instant local celebrity status when you get back. And you show you got a degree in theology, a doctorate of divinity. What is that doctorate of divinity? You show you got all that. And what they do, they set you up as if you somebody. And now you are, in this country anyway, authorized to hatch, patch, and dispatch. Preacher kids know what that is. Hatch means you authorize the birth to baptize somebody according to the Christian tradition, hatch. And a lot of Christians baptize you when you're a baby in that water thing, okay? Patch, you can go down here and you can sign a legal certificate called a marriage certificate. You can actually sign it as the agent authorized to join these two in holy matrimony. And you can dispatch, because you a preacher, you can conduct a funeral. You can't sign a death certificate, but you can conduct a funeral. By law, those are the three things you can do: hatch, patch, and dispatch. If you go to one of these colleges and graduate and you get your ordination papers. And you know you can get Christian ordination papers online. You just send them $25 and they'll send them to you. And now you can do the same thing. You don't have to go to school. But if you go to school, they just make you legit. And that's what they do. They draw the line. Who's legit and who's not legit. And this is a big deal to go to Christian college. It's a big deal to go to Liberty University. I still can't believe that, how quickly they done blew up. It's a big thing. And when you have not gone to college, ask some of these what they call jackleg preachers. Ask some of these young brothers that went to prison and learned their profession of preaching, their Christianity in prison. And they studied their Bible with the people, and they get out of prison and they come and they get up under their brother, their uncle, their cousin, their daddy, their mama, their auntie, or somebody. Right? And they go in the Christian church and change, and instead of out there now, they in the Christian church sitting up there and everything. And then they get what? A visit from a fella that come into town, and he's been to the seminary. And he got this degree and that degree. And when he go to speak, they dismiss him like, you don't know nothing, you ain't been to school. But that's the American way, ain't it? Harvard, Princeton, University of Michigan, Wisconsin, Alabama. Going to college means something here. And if you haven't gone to college, you're looked down upon. Same thing in their religion. The exact same thing. Where in the law, statute, commandments tell us as a people, this is what they tell us, to be separate and don't be like everybody else. In Christianity, look what it teaches their leaders. To be just like the leaders in the regular world. It's all right to look down on folks, as long as you can mask it. You see. As long as you can mask it. See, Yahushua said you'll always have the poor with you, right? But that was meant so you can always have compassion and somebody to love and know how to treat your brother. Not that you can have somebody to look down on. And that's what Christians do. They love looking down. And that's what they're doing here. And that's what they do here. They love to look down. Now let's go over here. And that was Matthew 13, 53. Is that right? Let me back up. No. Let's go to Matthew 13, 53 through 57. It came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence. And when he had come into his own country, he taught them in the synagogue, insomuch that they were astonished. This is where we're going with this. Jesus never went to the Pharisee school. He never went to the Sadducee school, the scribe school. He never went there. But when he got to his hometown, when he got there, he went into the synagogue and he taught them. He went to the temple and he taught them. And they were astonished and said, whence hath this man this wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And his brethren James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? That is the biggest thing in Christianity that I've seen growing up in it. It's very seldom that a fella will grow up unless he's particularly groomed for that. And it's in very few cases. that he's going to take his father's place in this Christian megachurch. There's going to be some type of fight and it splits. And it splits. They look down on Jesus. Who is he? And he the carpenter's son? He this or that. And he didn't do many mighty works in his hometown. For what? They wasn't going to believe anyway. There's a lot of brothers and sisters in the ISUPK who walk around with a heartfelt hurt since they come into this truth. Why? Because their people, their family, are being influenced by other leaders outside the truth. Who is he? He got on that jacket now, but when he just so-and-so 2-3 years ago, and he the same one that this and that, that don't work against us. But this is how your leaders keep you out of the truth. Your traitorous leaders. This is how they look. This is how they sound. Your traitorous leaders will always lead you away from the Most High and to destruction. Your traitorous leaders will do it in such a way that it looks good and it sounds good. Look good on paper, sounds good. It sounds good. But if you just simply come into this truth, study the law, statute, commandments of the Most High as taught by the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge, you will be able to recognize a traitorous leader. And you won't feel some kind of way about it. John, let's go to John. And this will be the last scripture. John 11. Let me get there. We got about 8 minutes. John 11. And let's go to 45. We want to deal with this fella here, Caiaphas. John 11, verse 45. Now many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them the things Jesus had done. Verse 47. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisee a council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles. Verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. John 11, verses 45 through 52. And this is the concern with most of your Christian leaders today. And well, your American leaders, your black American leaders, your Hispanic American leaders, your Native American leaders, so-called that is, they are concerned. The reason they don't want you to come into the ISUPK is because they know, they're concerned that if you follow these laws, statutes, commandments, if you give your allegiance to the Most High, come back to your nation, they believe that our existence upset the status quo so badly that the oppressor will come and take away their place. That's what they're concerned about. They're concerned that if we convince you to obey the law, statutes, and commandments, and you stop eating pork, that all the white-owned pig farmers are going to die because they can't sell their pigs because you stop eating pork. That the Polynesian crab hunters and the North Atlantic Norwegian crab hunters that go out on the boats will lose their jobs because you stop eating lobster and crab. They're not worried about lobster and crab is killing you. The lobster and crab is turning you against the Most High. They're not worried about that. But these fake, false, traitorous leaders are concerned about is their place. Keeping their pockets and their stomachs full. And they selling you out in order to do it. They've sold you out in order to do it. That's why at every church picnic, every Christian church picnic, they're going to have some ribs and they're going to have some ham hocks and the greens. You see that? They're going to have that. You see, every cookout. And they're going to have some sister some big hat wearing old sister trying to comfort some sister whose problem really is she just don't want to obey her husband. And this big hat sister is going to introduce her to some nephew, grandson, in other words, so she can commit adultery. Your leaders today is leading you away from your non-ISUPK leaders, the folks that are not in the ISUPK. Every last one of them are leading you away from the Most High, leading you deeper into sin, and causing your captivity to be more sure rather than your salvation, rather than your calling and your election. Why? Because it's not a leader outside of the ISUPK who does not force you and teach you the sin. They all teach you the sin. And they teach you the sin, why? So that they can keep their place in the Edomites' kingdom. So they can keep their level of comfort in the Edomite kingdom. And with that, I want to say shalom, Israel. Make sure you pay your tithes. If you haven't paid your Passover fee, let's get that in. It's only $100 per adult. Let's get it in. Let's get it in. Look, we look forward to the slaughter of the lamb coming. That's next month, I believe it is. When I say next month, that's March, the slaughter of the lamb. And then in April, we're going to have the Passover. But before then, we do have the Feast of Purim. Let's get ready for that. That's a glorious time. That's a feast where we celebrate where a sister obeyed the authority over her, and by her obeying, you know that? By obeying, by keeping the proper protocol. She saved Israel. Feast of Purim. We're going to be celebrating that in March 7th and 8th. So get ready. Shalom, Israel. Remember, we're the ISUPK. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We're under commanding General Yohanan, been bringing forth this truth since 1969. The truth is that your so-called African American, so-called Hispanic American, so-called Native American are the true Israelites of the Bible. Shalom, Israel.